Don't talk about the football. Gotta damn talk about the football. Football.
Yeah, pretty much. So hi friends. It's funny because the Super Bowl's next week, so we're almost timely.
Well, we just had the Pro Bowl.
I don't know what that is. And then I watched 80 for Brady this weekend. So that's another thing I got to do this weekend as well. Also catch up on a movie that I've never seen before, and that is 2004's Friday Night Lights, which is the subject of episode 22 of Popcast Movie Club. Hi, friends. I'm Owen. I'm sometimes here when it comes to movie club. Not always. Sometimes schedule doesn't really work out for it, but I'm here today so we can talk about on our first Peterburg Appreciation Night, which we will be doing also on the 6th of March. So that'll be a fun time as well. So yeah, lots to talk about. Everyone knows I don't like sports. Don't know sports. Have those memes about like sports ball and like one of the things I like to go is whoa sports yay stuff like that. But I love sports movies. Sports movies have always been great, and weirdly enough, I hate football in every way possible, but I love football movies. Football movies are great. Baseball movies are great. Basketball movies are great. I can't think of a sport that they don't nail when it comes to the big screen, including the sweet science, which we'll be talking about in about 4 weeks. So, and don't worry, AJ, one way down or another down the line, we're going to talk about battling Bob Satterfield on this channel. And I'm just going to leave that just to whet your appetite right there. As he is paused, according to the screen I'm seeing. There he is. He's back.
I think I was just sitting really still.
He's just sedentary.
Well, usually when I bring up Battling Bob, it's time to laugh. So that's the reason why I was kind of curious.
All right.
Oh, I did laugh, so I must have paused for you.
Yeah, it's all right. So yeah, episode 2 this week of Popcast, which is episode 22 of PMC.
22.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, yeah, it's 22 is a nice number for me as well. Never forget. Thing is, at the end of the day, we're going to talk about Friday Night Lights tonight, and it's going to be a fun time. Chris is here via notes, even though this is his pick. But I don't care what Chris has to say because he has been on the Jericho cruise for the last several days, and he can DIF. Here's the thing. So he'll be bringing his notes via AJ, and it'll be 3 of us talking about the movie. So you might see a very short movie club tonight, or this could be the longest one ever. You decide. Tonight. Joining us as always, we have Ashley.
I hope it won't be that short. I do have things to talk about.
Hey, I'm not going to complain at this point. We go where the wind takes us, gentlemen. And last but certainly not least, we have AJ.
Yeah, obviously, if it hasn't been made clear, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm not a sports person.
Yes.
But I do often like sports movies. But also, as not a sports person, I have to highly recommend my favorite episode of the IT Crowd, which I think is called Are We Not Men? Which also very perfectly talks about what you were talking about before about not knowing terminology but trying your best.
Yeah.
Trying to remember which episode.
I'm sorry,
was.
AJ sounding a little robotic on that.
Trying to remember what episode that was.
I'm trying to remember
the robotic right now. That's not good.
I'm hoping that's just on your end because everything seems normal to me.
We'll get there.
I can change region if I have
again. To. Awesome.
We'll
watch the screen to see if when we pause. And, oh, there we go.
We'll switch to donkey. while I quickly change region just in case that
You're
helps.
doing so well last.
Unless I just change it to... No, I can't do it now. That's annoying. Right. Last night was on automatic and we didn't have any issues, so that was good.
Yeah,
We're
well.
back.
So are we normal now?
Maybe.
If
It may just depend on what Owen's connection is, so that might be why, you know.
my connection is fine.
Okay.
I have zero problems whatsoever.
It's just how you said that, like, some of us were going robotic, so that's why I was just... I'd already switched the region, which, as I say, I didn't yesterday.
I literally heard you just go robotic a second ago, so it looks like it's gonna be one of those nights.
Yeah.
So we always can count on our chat as everyone's paused. So I don't know if I even want to talk because I don't know who can hear what at this point. I don't fix this now. I'm not doing this. Not again. No, it's still doing it.
God. Let me quickly do that. Feels like the donkey should be the technical difficulties symbol more often than not. I'll switch it back to east, and because that's the best I can do now. I should have just probably left it on automatic because it went perfectly fine yesterday. And therefore I don't want to restart the call, but to make it like not set to a region.
I logged back in just to see if that would help.
Oh, okay.
It looks fine, but you look extremely choppy, but I'm kind of used to that, so.
Whether because whether it's because I'm streaming at the same time, you know, it's not being kind to your device, possibly. I don't know, but
I don't care anymore. Let's just do this. Don't forget, we're not a visual show. We never have been. So if you're watching for visuals, the only thing you're really gonna take from this is some of the jokes and everything, and watching AJ crack up or Ashley crack up or me crack up. Other than that, just put us on in the background. We're a vocal podcast, not a visual one.
Yeah, because that one that really messed up when we were doing the Oscar nominations discussion actually went well as long as you just listen.
Yeah, totally. Just don't listen too long. Anyway, hint, hint, wink, wink, smile, smile, nod, nudge, nudge. It never happened. Tree fell in the forest. Spencer Reed, starting out our show today with a lot of trivia. Spencer is playing Josie right now, at least for the time being. Josie's here, don't worry. We got her too, but Spencer took the Josie role for the time being. Said, Garrett Hedlund, underrated actor, great performance. I'll shoot with you. I knew who these actors were, but I didn't realize it until I went back and watched. I was like, wait a minute, this is that guy, this is that guy. Oh my God, you're telling me Chris Colmer is the famous Jet Jackson? This is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
When I saw that.
Yeah, something I noticed about Garrett Hedlund is that the first couple of things I saw him in were this and Four Brothers.
Yeah.
And then I think the next thing I saw him in was Death Sentence, which was completely different.
Don't forget Country Strong.
Yeah, because it's interesting. When Garrett Hedlund has facial hair, he looks like he could beat your ass, or has this very stoic quality to him. When he doesn't have facial hair, he looks 12 years old.
Yes.
There's no in between.
Nope. Spencer inquires if anybody's watched an episode of the show.
I haven't, but my brother's watching it right now, and he has some notes on it, so we can get to those Do I just say those now? I guess that's been brought up.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
just...
I've seen bits of episodes, but never sort of really sort of hunkered down for it. And part of me doesn't want to, because now that I've looked into it and found out it's all fictionalized, whereas the film was basically like the true-ish story.
Well, the first thing he has here is that I guess several people carry over as far as actors.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
it's mentioned in...
I meant to ask about this and then I forgot to before they left. But my research was able to find 3 that overlap, where apparently Connie Britton plays the wife both times.
And
then Brad Leland, I guess, plays not the same character but a similar character, and an actress named Catherine Willis has like a really small part in the movie, but then had like a recurring role in the show. Those are the ones I found anyway.
Okay.
And then he has a whole section here about if I'm reading this correctly, the movie is... Hold on. Okay, so as far as the way the movie transfers over, it's season 1 story, but then season 3's ending, is what it sounds like, if I'm reading this right. And he says that I guess Bill Thornton's character, Gaines, is much more showy than Kyle Chandler. Or I guess Kyle Chandler goes more by stoicism. I'm assuming a lot of that is probably during gameplay also, because Thornton's really animated during the games.
Yeah.
And like just reading this, I already have an image in my head of just Kyle Chandler on the sidelines looking just stoic, which I can imagine. I'm assuming that's what this means.
Mm-hmm.
This is a direct quote from my brother's notes. The town are just as big of assholes, which is something I noticed throughout. Where it's I'm gonna kind of branch off this a little bit. The way this movie shows, because usually it's like, oh, everybody wants to win, everybody's all about winning,
mm-hmm.
and it's about loyalty to your team and stuff like that. And I feel like this movie does a really good and unexpected job of showing how toxic that shit is. Like that seems to be a whole part of the movie's message, where every time you see them striving to win, whether it be the coach or the players themselves, it doesn't feel like your average team striving to win. It's all of them cracking under the pressure of the fucking town. Where it's like Thornton's getting like veiled threats from people at the store. They've had to move. Connie Britton wants to move to Alaska. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I do want to say something, because we both know exactly that this is a shoot. Because both of us used to, still does, and I used to live in a town that lives and breathes the rivalry between one school and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And you're outside, you're in the outskirts of that town, but I lived in that town. And that's a shoot, ladies and gentlemen, 100%. And Friday Night Lights is no joke. People live and breathe these rivalries. People that don't have any stake in them whatsoever. People that never even went to these schools. They still come out every Friday night and they root on their alma mater, or what they wanted to be their alma mater. And yeah, they get preferential treatment as athletes. I saw it happen myself back in the day. I mean, obviously us in choir never got anything like this, but obviously if you're an athlete, you can be an athletic supporter. So needless to say, at the end of the day, it was one of those things that was really true to life about Friday Night Lights, and I noticed immediately. It's like, this is how things really happen. These towns shut down if there is a game. And I remember, and it's funny because the finish of the movie is going to the Houston Astrodome for 2 random high schools to play the state championship in front of 50,000 people. This does not happen in real life.
Yeah, because there's historical inaccuracies. Because the Houston Astrodome didn't exist in 1988.
No, it didn't.
It was actually played at University of Texas, which they deemed enough to be, I guess, because Austin was deemed enough to be sort of like not what, you know, the closest to be away from west and east. I could take a shot. And
Oh my God, you are badly glitching, Ashley.
I don't. Am I on your end, AJ?
I can hear you fine.
Okay.
I can hear you fine.
The crazy thing is, like, when you look into the real story behind everything, the team that they face in, I don't think it was the state championship. It was actually like the semi-finals. Because that win got Carter to the state championship, which they won. Which I'll go into more detail on about that later, because that's an interesting story in itself. Which is, I really wish that like the second movie, like if there was like a part 2 of this movie, because there's just enough of a fascinating story. But the Carter school apparently was just as bad as the other one. They were just as bad and toxic in their situation. And I think 2 seasons after what you saw, so, you know, as it's revealed at the end, they did the perfect state championship run the year after in 89. In 1990, they got thrown out of the whole competition because they were letting kids skip class so they could just go to training sessions. Which is an interesting plot point in itself when we get to more of the real stuff behind it. But I want to mention that later because I don't think it's relevant to the toxicity. Exactly.
I'm not sure what viewers can see in here. I'm seeing 2 totally different things here. I'm seeing Ashley, who is speaking clearly, who I can see clearly, and I'm seeing Owen losing his mind because clearly something is going wrong.
Everybody's slow. I've already logged off and logged back on, so I can't do anything about it. I look clear as day, and everybody else is just like going super slow.
Is this on Discord or YouTube? That it looks bad.
Discord looks terrible. And that's what's driving me nuts right now.
How is does anybody know how YouTube is doing?
I have a feeling it's probably fine, but it's just what I'm seeing is the problem.
Yeah, because of course
everybody's
getting my audio, so in essence, everybody can be heard by the stream. I think perfectly. I'll wait for chat to see if I'm coming through good and clear. It's just Owen that's having the sort of connection issues, if that, or whatever it is.
YouTube's fine, says Brian.
Okay. Okay, so the trouble here is Owen and Ashley are gonna have trouble communicating. It sounds so you have no idea what Ashley just said.
No, I heard him. It was very garbled, and I didn't really understand most of it, but I got the gist of it.
What I was going to continue on with the toxicity was the way it's a constant, where it's like, and it's coming from all different areas, where it's like the very beginning, which is also present throughout the movie, where there's like this, I'm guessing some sports radio show or something, and people are calling in and basically putting all the pressure out there. There was when Lucas Black was at the restaurant, and the guy with the ring came over with like his kid, and it's like, hey, this guy's going to be the future. And like I said, everything is like complimentary and encouraging, but also feels like a veiled threat, and sometimes not so veiled threat. There's the guy outside 7-Eleven. The fact that they have the giant signs in their yards that say, hey, this player lives here, and it's like they're treated like these gods of sorts. and how you can just
That's real too.
What's that?
You know that's real too.
Yeah.
You've seen it. I'm sure there's someone that's close by you that has some sort of gimmick in their yard.
And then there's the whole Lucas Black storyline where it's there's the moment where he breaks down in the locker room after they lose. And on the surface, if you were to just see that isolated, you would say like, dude, it's a game. You'll be fine. You're young. But it's like, not only is it the pressure of the entire town, he's got the whole thing with his mom going on. And it's like, It's literally, the loss is pretty much like third or fourth place of why he's reacting this way.
Everything all piles up and piles up and piles up, and eventually you just explode.
Yeah, it's it's basically third or fourth place as far as priority of why he's upset, but it's also the reason everything else is about to be worse.
Right, of course.
So it's like, and the way they really like brought the humanity to that and really showed it, where it's like something else my brother mentions is that both the movie and the show feel documentary like in a lot of ways.
Certainly, cinematography wise,
in some places too, for sure.
The Paul Greengrass way of style of shooting.
Yeah.
Shaky cam.
It is very
but we need to get in the chat before we go any more tangents or anything like that. Oh, I leave and it glitches and then Ashley just
we can probably still go into the chat.
Yeah, I want to. Spencer continues, Roger Ebert awarded the film 3.5, writing, "This movie demonstrates the power of sport to involve us and get us all wound up." Spencer just read the book, A Team and a Dream, Take a Shot, the Friday Night Lights book. Football movies don't hit like this one did. The Blind Side, When the Game Stands Tall, failed adaptations that I think wanted to use the FNL blueprint. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, Blindside was definitely a failure overall. Derek Luke playing James Booby Miles, 30 years old during filming. In the movie, he is a teenager, of course. At the end of the movie, where Permian is trying to score right before the last play, Peter Berg was jumping up and down in the stands. Not surprised. To gather research, producers visited Real House high school football games in Texas during the fall of 2003. Alan J. Pakula was originally set to direct before his death. Then it went to Linklater, who was attached before Berg, but budget difficulties took him out of the equation.
Linklater would have been interesting.
I would have enjoyed that. Billy Bob and Lucas Black both appeared in Sling Blade and All the Pretty Horses together. And Coach Gary Gaines died in Lubbock, Texas on August 22nd, 2022. Thank you, Spencer.
That's recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, relatively last few months to some extent. Well, 6 months.
I had one more thing. Owen, I hope you appreciate this.
Go ahead.
Did anything come to mind when we were talking about the toxicity of the fandom and the way they're treated? Did anything come? Did a particular scene from a particular movie come to mind?
There's a lot of things that came to mind, actually.
There's a movie not many people have seen, but we certainly have. What's that?
You're talking about Big Fan?
No, more light. I'm talking about.
I always automatically get right to Big Fan.
I'm talking about a particular scene in Celtic Pride.
Oh my god, I love Celtic Pride.
It's the scene when they're at the bar and they're pretending to hate the Celtics even though they don't, and they run into Larry Bird.
And Larry Bird, yes.
And to kind of keep it there, like to keep this meeting from going completely south, Daniel Stern says, well, we loved them when you were playing, we just hate them now, even though they're like the most massive fans ever. And Larry Bird goes off on them and says, you love us when we're winning and you hate us when we're losing, and you need to learn something about loyalty. And that's easy. There's so much faux loyalty from these people.
Yeah. They're willing to drop you like a bad habit if you're not doing well.
Yeah. That's what you were saying, how it does feel so real when like Thornton just walks out of the stadium, and there's a whole crowd there just ready to shit on him to his face.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like it was the coach's fault for putting in the injured player when the injured player was just lying directly to his face.
See, here's the thing. You have to think Billy Bob's been around long enough to realize that Booby was lying to him the whole time. But in the back of his mind, he's like, should I try to put it just to see what happens at the very last minute? Because they benched him for almost the whole game. He didn't come out until the very last minute. So not until it was like dire for him to come out. So, I mean, he had to at least had an inkling of an idea that there was something fishy going on.
Yeah, because there is that scene right when it first happens, when the injury first happens, and they're in the back, and they say like, "Oh yeah, it'll be like a week. It'll be fine." And then I love how the camera stays on Thornton as he walks out because he knows that's not true.
Oh, 100%. Alrighty. More chat. Hey, Popcast team, watch this on the really cold Saturday. AJ, do you have the same thing in common with Josie?
What's that?
What did you watch Friday Night Lights? Finally.
Last night. Like really, really late last night.
So close, but not exactly. Definitely not ideal weather for a game. Friday Night Lights won the ESPY Award for Best Sports Movie. I buy that. Nominated
there was actually something we skipped over, which was it's a connection to what we were talking about with the show and a connection to what we were talking about with Bowie's injury, which was my brother said it basically plays out like that in the show, just instead of the running back getting a knee injury, it's the quarterback getting paralysis.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
The Joe Theismann situation?
You made a reference even I don't understand, so
I know it because of wrestling. Don't worry. It's only because of Vader that I know that reference. It was nominated for USC Scripter, Teen Choice Awards Drama, and a Breakthrough Male for Tim McGraw for MTV Movie Awards. Lost to John Heater for Napoleon Dynamite. Deservedly so, honestly.
Wow,
Thank you for liking Napoleon.
The quality of those awards descended really quickly.
I'm trying to look. So Friday Night Lights was up against $1 Million Baby, Coach Carter, and Cinderella Man. Pretty strong list, to be fair.
So it's all, well, I mean.
That's 2004 bleeding into 2005. That must have been a weird year.
Yeah.
Oh, it's ESPYs. They're always weird.
Oh, you're talking, okay, you're talking, yeah. I went back to USC.
No,
okay.
It's ESPYs. They're always weird.
This is when, see, I remember this was a big deal back in the day when we heard about Tim McGraw getting cast in this movie. Country singer Tim McGraw getting cast in a football movie, and he just knocked it out of the park. Tim McGraw became a very solid actor very fast.
Yeah, the very first thing in my brother's notes is Tim McGraw stands out.
Yeah, he does.
And
it feels
honestly,
like he's been acting for years.
Yeah, what is it with? I mean, he didn't direct this like he did Sling Blade. But what is it about Billy Bob Thornton's presence is able to make country singers into the perfect abusive father figure character after Dwight Yoakam? I mean, because Tim McGraw in this obviously isn't as scary as Doyle Hargraves or anything, not even close, but still it's also something that feels so real in the distance in it. One line that stuck out to me was the one time they're getting ready to have a tender moment after McGraw's had a particularly bad. It was the night after he threw his ring out of the car, and when he's finally about to have a tender moment with Garrett Hedlund for the first time, the first thing he says is, "I don't want this to sound like an apology." Like he's preempting. Just so you know, I still think you're pretty much worthless, but I'm gonna say something that might sound a little complimentary.
Well, I didn't hear anything you just said.
Great.
But I will say, I mean, as long as the viewers are hearing it, it doesn't matter what I hear. I will say right now that I thought you're going the direction I feel like you're going with that, with the beginning of the comment you just made, Dwight Yoakam was a scary mofo anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You didn't really think about that when I was here in Streets of Bakersfield with Buck Owens, so I mean, didn't really think he had it in him to do that in Sling Blade, but he did, so it makes sense that Tim McGraw would work really well as a drunken dad.
Well,
He
here's
played
the
the
thing.
natural stereotype, and it worked.
I know we've already bashed this movie once. I didn't, but you guys threw a little shade. Playing a totally different character, I thought he was good in The Blind Side too.
I hated The Blind Side, but I mean, I understand why some things in The Blind Side were good.
I never in a million years would have. I think one of the most impressive things about The Blind Side is that I never in a million years thought I would see Tim McGraw make a Woody Allen reference in a football movie.
Like I said, there were things about it that were good, but by and large, I don't like that movie. Josie continues with our chat ski here. The real James Booby Miles was standing next to Derek Luke several times throughout the film, wearing a black Permian jacket and hat. Dixon stated, as Spencer moves on, that he regretted not getting the surgery instead of trying to play with a knee brace, which would have ended his playing days. Josie said the real-life Brian Chavez did go to Harvard, got a law degree, but moved back to Odessa, started going to Permian games with one of his old teammates. One day, angered by a historic loss in a heated rivalry game, Chavez rounded up a posse, broke up into a house party, and started brawling with the attendants. Why?
What?
Well, his girlfriend's ex-husband was at the party, and he's been fighting with her over the phone while Chavez was trying to watch the game. He pled guilty to burglary with intent to commit assault, had to settle lawsuits with the victims.
Well, that's a nice coda to follow up his.
Brian said it's sad the Gary Gaines that Billy Bob plays passed away last year. We talked about that. He battled Alzheimer's, so that's how he passed away. Josie mentioned, continuing, he avoided jail time, but he had his law license invalidated by Texas State. But he's turned his life around since, but the incident ultimately proved the pull of Permian high school football was too much for even the smartest and most grounded player to escape. Frustrated with the authenticity of some actors playing assistant coaches, Peter Berg turned to actual Permian high school coaches to deliver lines during game sequences.
Makes sense.
I continue. Josie continues, live action game sequences from the 2003 high school football season are interspersed throughout the film. Peter Berg matched the uniforms and on-field jersey numbers for action sequences so live clips would blend. Game sequences shot at Ratliff Stadium in Odessa and the Houston Astrodome. Buzz Bissinger wrote the book, and it's funny, he is cousins with Peter Berg. Connie Britton and Brad Leyland also play. We mentioned that the Friday Night Lights TV series. Connie was the wife in the movie and TV show. Brad played the character close to the coach and in the team both as well. Book displays several instances of racism and racial slurs to black players. While the filmmakers asked PHS to comedy for two is still comedy. To use all of their facilities for the authenticity, the school agreed only to the terms that racism showed in the book not be included in the film to avoid a negative image. Exterior shots of the Astrodome. Digital editing was used to remove the 4 exterior pedestrian ramp columns added in 1989 to comply with the ADA.
It's interesting that comes up because I did notice, number one, during the dinner scene that the Gaineses are at the beginning, there is an N-bomb dropped.
Yes.
And then there's the moment when they're deciding what race the refs are going to be, when they're having the zebra conversation. It does feel like those are the only references to, like, the zebra conversation felt like, when you watch it, you're like, yeah, I get, they're in Texas in the 80s, I get it. But it
Sure.
did still feel like it was like the movie didn't really portray that to build up to that conversation. So it almost feels like it comes out of nowhere. You just kind of,
Right.
it's like just
The
kind of
only
knowing the
sort
general
of
context.
the only hint you really get from it is sort of how it's introduced that Carter is a predominantly black team rather than, I'd say it's probably a relatively even mix of races
Permian.
within the Permian team.
Certainly. It's even alluded to the fact that there is not a single non-African American on the Carter team, and that's why they're like, "Oh, let's play at a place that we don't want to go there because there's going to be a problem. Your fans won't interact with our fans." So that's how they settled on playing at the Astrodome in the first place. Don and Charles Billingsley did reconcile. They ended up attending the same church as Gary Gaines and his family. So apparently, the final score of the match against Dallas Carter was 34-28, but the final score was actually 14-9.
Yeah,
Dallas Carter.
it's not a good enough of a Hollywood ending, and I might as well sort of step in here because this is where like the real story is Carter came from behind. They actually scored the winning touchdown and the points to actually get them the win. Over dramatized, missing out on getting the touchdown.
Thoughts on Connie Britton as an actress? Favorite performance?
Oh right, I forgot. The other little fascinating tidbit. Carter won the state championship and then lost it because their star player. Yeah, I get it, Owen. Sorry. Their star player was done for armed robbery and then turned out actually did 10 armed robberies. And also their teacher was basically giving them non-existent grades just so that they could be in the continue in the competition, which nearly got them thrown out the playoffs, but on appeal they somehow made it in.
That's fucking nuts.
He also got sentenced to 16 years in jail for those armed robberies when people thought he was like just going to get away with sort of maybe like a fine or probation or something. And they got stripped of a championship, and the team that they beat in the state championship final won instead. So in essence, Carter shouldn't have been there in the first place. Quite a few of the players were technically ineligible because their grades weren't that good enough. Which I thought, of course, is ironic given 2 years later, the flunking off of lessons to focus solely on the school stuff is what did Permian in. Dan, that's why I say that's just as an interesting a story as to why they didn't follow through exactly. Because the story of Carter is just as intriguing, and as I say, just as toxic. Right, so in terms of jumping back to where the question was, Connie Britton performances, I'm trying to think of what I know her from.
The Connie Britton performance that stands out to me first is Promising Young Woman. Because that's her performance in Promising Young Woman is where that movie really takes off.
Yeah, I vaguely recognize her from that. That's probably the only thing that I recognize her. I didn't even know she was in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, or Me, Earl and the Dying Girl, and the Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman, and she was in the Mustang as well. I actually saw that one. And Bombshell, which I also saw. So I've seen her in stuff, but the only one I remember from is probably Promising Young Woman.
I assume her claims to fame are Friday Night Lights and Nashville, if I had to guess.
More than likely. If you're in for TV series, 76 episodes of Friday Night Lights and 97 episodes of Nashville. Yeah, that's probably the bigger thing.
I saw the first season of Nashville, which I thought was fine, but I was more focused on how fucking hot Hayden Panettiere was. That I didn't. I couldn't tell you much about Connie Britton in it, but I'm sorry how shallow that is, but it is what it is.
She's actually in. She's got a somewhat main role in Dear Edward, the series that just went up on Apple Plus as well. Uh-oh. Tension mounting. I'll briefly mention this, even though Owen will probably cover it anyway if he is able to get back in a minute or so. Billy Bob Thornton's on his sixth wife. Yet this sixth wife he's been married to for nearly 10 years. So I'm trying to remember like how many of those relationships like went down very quickly.
To my understanding, he and Angelina are still friends.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who the others are. Yeah, I have a whole Billy Bob thing to go into, but I don't know if I should wait till all three of us are here, because there's a lot of Billy Bob to talk about.
The one thing, it's annoying because like when you look into it and you find out that like so much of it was Hollywoodized, if you want to call it that. Yet it doesn't have the typical Hollywood like perfect ending sort of thing.
Yeah, that's my brother's response to that was he loves the ending and says sometimes the hero should lose. I guess in kind of like a that's life way, kind of like I find it really similar to We Are Marshall's ending, which also just felt really real and like just this is just what happens. Sometimes it's not that ending. And I also like how what it seems to turn into in the second half is basically the Rocky concept, where it's like after a while winning just isn't the goal anymore because it's so out of reach, so the goal just becomes staying in the game. And so there's still like a moment of triumph, even though it is kind of soul crushing to see Lucas Black get that close and then they lose, and we get the moment where Tim McGraw gives Garrett Hedlund the ring and stuff like that, and it's still how they're able to do that sort of real ending of they lost, even if it was obviously not exactly the way it happened. But yeah, to sort of balance like give the bittersweetness, I guess, is what I'm looking for, to be more concise.
Yeah. I do like the way that it sort of as to sort of touch on the toxicity. It's like each key player that we see has got their own demon. You've got the star linebacker, or I don't know what these positions are. I have a passing interest in American football. I keep an eye on it because my friend's a Saints fan, at least NFL wise. And sometimes a bit of a diehard Saints fan because when I'm on calls with him when he's watching games, he goes a bit too loud sometimes. I know this because he might watch this, so shout outs to you, Billy. But in that respect, you can see like you've got this key player that's sort of doing all the rounds that doesn't want to give it up because he knows that it's his last season and whatever. It's his last year in college, so he ain't going to be eligible, so he wants to do it. But at the meantime, it's like going to end his career and everything. Hang on. I'll still be able to talk while I... Okay. Okay. Right.
You look much clearer now, actually.
Everything seems to be better, but it's like the internet did not say it was disconnected, but it disconnected me on Discord because I got sick and tired of every 5 seconds watching you guys buffer. So I'm like, okay, I'll log out again. And literally just killed the whole thing. Said the call was ended and everything. Wouldn't connect. It said the chat wouldn't connect.
It could be Discord being Discord.
F Discord. I want Google Hangouts back.
No, they need to spend all the money getting all those gold plaques for Mr. Beast.
No, I need one. We deserve one. I don't care if we don't have the numbers or not. After everything we've been through for the last 10 years, we deserve one too.
But yeah, you have him and his sort of like, I don't want to say performance issues, but like feels like he has to, because he's that prideful about it. Then you've got the guy that's sort of living in the shadow of his father, maybe, so pushy parent sort of stuff. Then you've got the one that's like, should I focus on my football? Should I focus on my dying mom, or whatever? And then you've got the third choice. The third choice, pass receiver, like all of a sudden getting a chance, screwing up with his football, leading to like their big star player being crocked, and then having to sort of step up and prove that he belongs at the sort of level. And then of course there's the one guy that says nothing and just looks at you. That, as it turns out, actually gets the actual college career afterwards.
He's also technically a team captain too, so.
Mm-hmm.
Booby was never a team captain officially.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying they sort of, all of them have their own sort of, not demons on their back that they've sort of got to sort of plow through over the season. Oh God. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to switch regions again, just in case somehow US East is actually a factor. Is Central going to work? Or is it literally just the Discord app on Owen's phone or whatever actually just being shitty? Fucking hell.
Before he comes back super pissed, I was gonna also talk about just Comer's whole sort of rise, where it's like how he starts off as the guy that forgets his helmet. I remember that being like the big trailer moment that always got a reaction. And then there's that moment where Comer gets his first touchdown, and he's so confused what to do, he can't even let the ball go. Like it's almost like he scores the touchdown before he realized what happened.
Referee was just like, "Give me the ball." What?
Everybody on the sidelines is just like, that was him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the first things my brother really touched on was the performances in general. He singles out the scene where Derek Luke leaves finally, and he leaves all confident, and he's like, hey, take my name thing and put it on eBay. It's going to be worth so much. Obviously not saying eBay in '88, but he said you can sell this. It's going to be worth money. And then he walks out like he's all cocky, like we've seen Booby the whole time. And then we just finally see like everything drop, and we see like this isn't an average actor has a sort of, it finally breaks down and shows their emotion scenes. This is like a full-on realistic, like guttural lament for what can never be. Where it's like you really get the sense that this is what he feels like he was put on this earth for, and it was taken from him. And now it's like you're basically killing him, literally, by him not being able to play now. And you get that in this performance also. I also feel like the scene with him and the doctor is really, really good too. And how it's almost where it's like part of his denial is, oh, this guy must be for the other team, and that's why he's telling me not to play. But I really God, I really want to talk about Billy Bob Thornton. Should I just do it?
You might as well, because we're sort of like 50 minutes in. And, we've obviously got Chris's other notes and a few other comments to eventually go through, so.
The thing that I think is amazing about Billy Bob Thornton in general is how anytime he's playing a particular occupation, you get the sense that he's done that thing his whole life. It's like there's even the moment in season 1 of Fargo where to go undercover, he becomes a dentist. He's a dentist for like 6 months, and in that little thing, I think it's a cold open to the episode, the whole thing. It feels like Billy Bob Thornton was a dentist. Even though we know the character's faking it, it still feels real. And I feel like he can do that with every occupation. And I feel like he really, really nailed the football coach sort of. Not only is he playing a real person, but just the portrayal of that occupation in general and the pressure that he's under. And the way that he's able to play the different notes of it, where there's the moment when he and Garrett Hedlund are sitting on the bench during the game, and he's being almost like fatherly. Like, he's seen what Tim McGraw does, and the only way he's going to intervene is to just be more fatherly to him and not get involved in that actual thing. And so he says, you're not done playing. You're just going to take a break right now. That's it. And he's being very calm and almost fatherly. And then there's like a cut, and then it's him screaming in the locker room. And that's the thing too, is just like the players, it doesn't feel like this is a coach that's desperate to win. This is a coach that's desperate due to the pressure and knowing what the consequences from the town are going to be, and the fact that his family might have to move again because these people are fucking nuts.
I do appreciate the fact, though, that he sort of plays it relatively calm and subdued when it isn't game time.
Yeah.
When everybody and their mother comes into like his meeting room to discuss what the plans are. With all those that are sort of, as long as we win state championship, that's all that matters, right? You can tell he's just listening like, I am not giving a shit about any word that you're saying, because I know what the plan is best for my team. I know that the coach is the best to know what for my team. All of you are just beneficiaries of the school. You have no input whatsoever.
He's acting like he's on a Zoom call for something that could have been in an email. Every time he has those meetings.
Yeah. It's only sort of when it gets to key moments in the locker room where he gets angry, because of course the big sort of motivational speech, he doesn't sort of like get that passionate about it, because again, as you mentioned earlier, it's not about winning the game, it's about being like perfect in yourself rather than actually doing the perfect sort of undefeated run sort of thing.
It's the kind of thing that would be cheesy, but because we've seen what they've all been through up to this point, it really rings true.
Mm-hmm.
And really has the impact.
Do you want to go through any more of Chris's notes? Or?
Another thing he brings up is oh shit, where is it now? It was along the lines of it feel like Peter Berg's direction, and how the atmosphere and the pacing, and how it does feel very much like a Peter Berg movie, where it's like I've always thought that Peter Berg is basically if Michael Bay understood nuance. Because there's even like the way he shoots the sun and people in sunglasses feels very similar to Bay.
I can't believe this is the same guy that did Battleship.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like completely like different style. And not in a good way for Battleship.
Yeah, because I can't remember what it was. Oh, it was didn't he do Battleship just so they'd give him, because that was his like payment for getting to do Lone Survivor, I think is what it was.
I think so. Sounds about right.
Yeah. It's the same thing where they told Michael Bay, if you want to make Pain and Gain, you got to make Transformers 4 for us, and we'll give it to you. And yeah, as far as his direction goes, what I especially love is the kind of precision in like the editing and the way the games are shot, because the shot where Booby gets injured, I'm not even sure how they accomplish that shot, because usually it would be you just see people like dogpile on each other, and then one guy would be screaming, and it's like, oh, he's injured. But the way they show it to where we get to see the injury actually happen amidst the chaos, I have no idea how they would have shot that. But I love how we get to see like the whole detail of it, and it's not just, oh no, he's injured, like that, and that plays up just how crucial that's going to be to the story, because that's basically where the story goes from now on, is that injury, pretty much. And I love that they had the mind to do it, like to really show what the whole catalyst for everything else was. And also shout out to making a coin toss so suspenseful. Like, it's literally it's dudes looking at coins on the ground, and it's like, holy shit, what's the outcome gonna be? I think that's mine and my brother's combined thoughts on Peter Berg's direction.
Yeah. I did appreciate like some of the music cues, like when they come out for the championship playoff or whatever, and the cannot scrape. I was just getting flashbacks to. It's a sort of similar-ish introduction of like in Tony Hawk's Underground, where your skater does this like incredible stunt. It's like to this music, so as soon as I heard it, I was like, "Oh shit!" I was just thinking back to that, really. But it seems like one of those sort of like, I don't want to say fight songs, but like something to sort of like build up to sort of like a big moment and everything. So I like that. Although, to be fair, they didn't use as much licensed music as I thought they might have done. A lot of it did seem to sort of have a somewhat standard score, but just with the key bits, they use the the various musical bits.
Yeah, because when you think sports movies, you typically think like a constant sort of soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of adds to the reality to it that they didn't bombard us with that.
So
well, I've wrapped up my notes, and I have my brother's final thoughts, and I think that's another thing my brother brings up is that he likes the simplicity of it. Where he wonders if it seems simpler because he's watching the show, and the show is going to obviously branch out a lot. But I'm assuming this refers to how like just we do have like the players' individual lives, but the movie doesn't feel like it's riddled with subplots like a lot of movies like this would be.
Yeah, it's more sort of like a collective. They have to get through their things rather than anything is specifically sort of. The closest you get is the abusive thing, because obviously that's probably the most toxic.
Yeah.
Showcase, arguably. I guess I'll step in and do comments while Owen is maybe kicking his tablet up. I don't know.
Yeah, for a second it said he was typing something in Discord and then he stopped.
Uh-oh. I spoke too soon. Is he... Oh, there we go. Maybe.
How Owen feels now is how I felt when we did the late shift video.
I'm guessing. I'm trying to work out whether Owen, can you hear us? Is it okay now or? Oh, right.
No idea.
I was so anticipating you would say something and we wouldn't be able to hear you. Because that's the only thing that hasn't happened.
So, yeah, the internet died. I had to reboot it. First off, the call died, and then the internet died. And I'm glad it's been going on the whole time, but I don't know what's going on, nor care.
I think if it makes you feel better, I think we were getting close to wrapping up.
We need to go home.
Yeah, there's comments left in the chat.
Where did we Where did we stop in chat? Because the last thing I was about to go into was the football team face-off.
Yeah, I mentioned the Billy Bob Thornton thing, being married 6 times, but I held off on the rest of it because I thought that sort of it's good sort of final comments before, or final comments and things and whatever to talk about before we get to the final thought. So,
all right, Panthers football team face-off.
Ooh.
Panthers versus Notre Dame and Rudy.
I don't know if I can do this because we grow to love all the characters so much.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen Rudy, so I'll abstain.
Well, keep in mind Al Snow and Dan Severn are both on the team, so or a team in the movie.
I guess I'd have to say Notre Dame, I guess.
Yeah, Rudy. Panthers versus Little Giants. Love to see a fight between Rick Moranis and Billy Bob. Dang. I need that in my life, Josie, right now.
I'm abstaining for this. I'm abstaining from this because I don't want to say it myself. I want the movie to be made.
That's fair.
The obligatory Rick Moranis mention every month as well.
Panthers versus the Rogues of Gotham and Dark Knight Rises.
Weren't they just the Steelers?
Basically, yeah.
I mean, also, like, I'm trying to work out whether both teams would be able to handle a giant crevasse opening up in the middle of a stadium.
I mean, the Panthers have seen some shit at this point.
Yeah,
I'd almost bet on them. I think
maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Panthers versus the Blue Mountain State Goats.
Who are they again?
No idea.
Hang on.
I'm gonna guess I think Blue Mountain State is a TV series.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Josie, you're speaking foreign languages to me right now. Miami Sharks.
That sounds familiar.
Sure. Josie says Sharon Seymour, the production designer on this movie, was also a production designer for a lot of Affleck movies. Argo, The Town, Gone Baby Gone, The Ides of March, Rules of Attraction, Bad Santa, and Reality Bites.
Yeah, the Sharks are Any Given Sunday.
Yeah.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay. Another one I haven't seen.
I will go with the Panthers because the Sharks won't be able to keep Jamie Foxx from stopping fucking puking every 2 seconds. So
I guess we're not going to talk about like The Longest Yard and
Pacino. Although Pacino and Billy Bob Thornton in a coach off might be just as interesting.
oh my god.
Spencer mentions the series went 22 episodes, full season of network television. Not relevant to tonight, but watch Moving Violations. Excellent pick, Owen. Thank you, Spencer. Hi, Brian.
We finally found a Moving Violations fan besides you.
I want to do that. I want to do the Dana Cannon dance right now. I'm so happy that we're live. Are we live? Yes, we are. Speaking of Popcast Movie Club, Spencer says it's my favorite movie club pick.
Holy shit.
I'm trying to remember if Spencer watched Who Killed Captain Alex.
I can't explain why, and I'm happy to say this, but at the end of the day, it's the most viewed movie club pick, too.
Wow.
And that's a shoot right there. AJ confirmed this one the other day.
I know, it's hilarious.
I will deny this. A movie that I watched on a VHS copy with the original Revenge of the Nerds is the top movie club pick no matter what we do. moving forward. I love this.
I'm trying to
I
work
wish
out.
it was Penn and Teller get killed for good reason, but moving violations makes me happy.
I'm trying to work out if my pick in 2 weeks' time might be the most mainstream movie we've done out of the 23.
It would have to
Probably.
be up there.
Yeah.
Mask of the Phantasm would probably be up there.
I wasn't there for that. I wish I would have. Let's see. Garrett Hedlund, amazing. I really like Country Strong, Spencer Reed. I really do. I like that movie a lot.
I just remember I was genuinely shocked by Country Strong's ending.
Johnny Britton?
Because you should have been able to see, by all accounts, you should have been able to see the ending of Country Strong coming, but I didn't think it was that kind of movie.
Nope.
But no, they fucking went there.
That's why it's so good. And it's a movie a lot of people sleep on, and a lot of people slept on, obviously.
Right.
But
I have not seen it since 2010, but I will remember that fucking ending forever.
oh yeah.
I am now having to look up the ending because I don't know whether that even got released over here because it's too country.
I mean, like I said, it's if you just read about it, it'll probably be like, well, yeah, of course that's how it ends. But like I said, I didn't think it was that kind of movie by the tone of everything else.
Also, there's another movie that I bring up to you all the time, and I don't think you've watched it yet, and that's George Strait's Pure Country. And I remember watching Country Strong, and I got vibes from that movie.
I don't think I ever did.
You never did that I'm aware of, unless you watched it after the fact.
I think it would have been with you if I did.
Yeah, I asked you to watch it because Country Strong gave me the vibes, and then Crazy Heart came out, and it was like, yeah, I got more vibes from
Crazy Heart was Country Strong was the year after Crazy Heart.
Yeah, so both of them like hit that George Strait bell for me, actually, weirdly enough. Josie says, ooh, what if the basketball team learned football and faced the Panthers? Or Billy Bob coached the basketball Bears? Only if RBF was playing, Josie. Only if RBF was playing the whole time.
I feel like Squeak would be a great football player, not because of his tiny size, obviously, but because he must have a huge pain threshold at this point.
Squeak could face Dallas Carter by himself. He's not going to survive, but he could. I just throw everybody in there. You have Squeak, you got Marco Stunt. Let's go. I love basketball, Josie. I love basketball very much, and I think AJ does too. I don't know Ashley's opinion of it. I don't know if it came over. Did it come to the UK?
Yeah, it has a. I mean, that's how people got hooked into South Park. That was arguably the biggest thing that they did before South Park.
You're right.
I can't remember when. It was when me and my brother were doing stuff over Zoom, but baseball does have a video on this channel with Talladega Nights of all things. It surprised us how much those have in common. You'd be surprised.
Fantastic verses that I need to peruse as soon as I can find it. I'll just do the search gimmick.
Keep in mind, the first film that I saw wasn't even Muppet Treasure Island. It was Carpool, in a country that didn't even know what carpooling was. So it was a great concept. It was just there as shit for a double feature.
Freaking! Oh my god, I love Carpool.
I'm just imagining people in the UK watching Carpool and feeling like, I feel cultured now.
Thankfully it didn't resolve in people managing to get their cars and driving through shopping centres.
With I Want to Be Sedated playing on the radio, of course. Josie says I can only imagine the Michael Bay version of this movie. And how did Tim McGraw die? Explosion!
I was trying to think, some sort of collision's going to happen here.
When he throws that ring out, it somehow hit them in gas canister that...
Oh, wow.
Or another car turns into fucking Megatron or something.
God damn it. Thoughts? I see Megatron every day. Thoughts on the Rundown? I love that movie.
I love the Rundown.
Rundown's
Wait,
really
which one's the
good.
rundown?
That's Welcome to the Jungle for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that was.
Right.
'Cause
That was.
this came up during a Q&A once.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
'cause
was that was a
the
nice
question-
little bit of fun.
It was about Sean Scott, wasn't it?
What was that?
Wasn't the question about Sean Scott?
It was about our favorite theater experiences.
Oh yeah.
Because watching the Rundown in a crowded theater is when I realized I actually love watching movies in a crowded theater, because that was so fun.
Sometimes it's great, but if you're on the receiving end of a movie that everybody loves and no one and you don't, it's can be pure torture.
Oh, and by the way, not long after we did that Q&A, I was triggered to watch the Rundown again.
Nice.
It's still good. It's still really good.
Josie brings up another movie that we've talked about numerous times on this channel that I know me and AJ both love, and that's Very Bad Things.
Absolutely. That was his first movie.
That movie's fan-freaking-tastic.
That movie is considered that movie's notorious for being one of the darkest dark comedies ever, and he has not made a dark comedy since.
Nope.
It's all true stories and action movies since then.
That can't be topped. Very Bad Things cannot be topped. Worst sports movies.
A lot of racing movies suck, like Driven.
Yeah.
The movie, and the racing movie with Pacino that was really fucking boring. Bobby Deerfield.
I like Days of Thunder. So NASCAR movies are always fun.
Yeah, I haven't watched Days of Thunder since I was a kid, but I always didn't like it. But I'm curious how I'd feel now.
Love boxing movies. Love wrestling movies. Hockey movies could go either way.
I feel like my very, very vague memory of Against the Ropes isn't very positive.
No. Well, no. I think about it for a second. Is there a bad football movie?
Oh, I'm sure there is.
I'm positive there is, but
I mean, Leatherheads isn't great.
I didn't mind it. I like the fight when they fight on the front yard. That's always entertaining to me.
I remember. I mean, I love Scott Bakula. Don't get the wrong idea.
As everyone should.
I remember hating Necessary Roughness quite a bit.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel very good after you watched it.
There's been a fair few. I'm trying to think through the sports. I don't
Basketball
think
doesn't really have honestly that many movies.
There's no tennis ones that really stand out as sort of
Bad,
terrible, but also probably the only really good one is maybe King Richard.
Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Does Strangers on a
Golf
Train
movies are boring.
What's that?
The golf movies are boring.
Yeah, but you have Happy Gilmore.
Jesus playing golf. Bobby Jones, stroke of genius.
There's the greatest game ever played.
I like that game. I like that movie a lot for lots of reasons. You know
And
exactly.
I want this question answered. Is Strangers on a Train a tennis movie technically?
Jesus. I adhere to the chat on that one.
No, because I don't go at any point. Maybe if they did, maybe if the camera moved some more, then I might think it's a tennis film.
No, that scene though. That shot's the first shot I think of in Strangers on a Train, when everybody's head is turning except for Bruno's.
Oh,
like
okay.
that's the first shot I remember in Strangers on a Train.
Wow. Ooh. Josie brings up The League. Ever watched any of the episodes?
That's Mark Duplass's show, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. I've never seen an episode of it, much as I love him.
Speaking of never seen an episode of it, Two shows come to mind when I think about sports, and one of them is Aaron Sorkin's Sports Night, which I absolutely loved watching back when it was out. And one of my absolute favorites, if you want to talk about something that most people like skipped out on completely, it was Entourage before Entourage was cool. Arliss. Robert Wall's HBO comedy series about him being a sports agent. I love that show.
That's a shame. If my brother was here, he could talk Arliss with you because he watched it recently.
Oh God, I remember I watched Arliss like constantly. That show was great, and it covered every single sport known to man, and it had a cameo list a mile wide. It was great because everybody was one of Arliss's clients or not one of Arliss's clients. So yeah, it was Entourage for sports before HBO created Entourage. They saw what they could do with Arliss, and they're like, hey, how about we change this around a little bit and add a couple more people and make it a little bit more modern. Hey, here's Entourage. And it becomes a great success. It still is a success to this day.
I'm assuming Entourage is also significantly more bro-y.
Oh, yeah, totally. Oh, God, yes. 100%.
I finally realised the worst soccer film, which I've mentioned before. The one which glorifies Sepp Blatter as like practically being a god because it was made by FIFA about FIFA. So it was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with us. Right at the time all the scandal was hitting them.
Tim Roth was able to put his kid through college with that
exactly.
movie. That's what he said.
That's the only good thing to come out of it.
So, completely out of left field, Josie mentions that tonight she's watching Unfaithful.
Wow, I was just talking about Adrian Lyne with somebody. That's eerie.
So, Josie, I want to tell this story on here. I should wait till May 1st. Cheap plug. We got a little bit of time. So, one of my favorite stories about working at the movie theater is a time that they just done mess up. 100%. So, you know how theaters would split movies? Well, we had Mylar posters for both movies side by side, and our wondrous film booker thought it'd be a brilliant idea to put Unfaithful with Spirit. Yes, the animated Matt Damon horse movie, Spirit. So, one day, working, all of a sudden there's sort of a little bit of a commotion. Don't really know why. Could be a brain wrap, not a big deal. We can get that fixed. Projector could have turned off. No big deal. Could have been fixed. No. The projectionist, in their infinite wisdom, started Unfaithful instead of Spirit. And the parent and their kid were sitting in the theater not thinking about the clearly R-rated trailers that were playing in front of it. Because obviously they're not paying attention. Or maybe they were outside of the auditorium because God knows people don't come to the movies on time anymore. They walk in like 15 minutes late in front of you and annoy the daylights out of you. Anyway, off the soapbox. Needless to say, the movie started. And then all of a sudden, the beginning sequence, which you will see very soon, Josie, starts. And right before it could start, pretty much takes off running down the aisle like a bat out of hell up to the booth, go, no! And this is a true story. I'd love this to be a story that I'm telling to not be true, but it's 100% truth.
Well, didn't the same thing happen with Jackass 3 and Alpha and Omega?
Yes, it did. So there was a precedent there.
And there was I don't believe there was any incident, but it was always funny to everybody that for a while Passion of the Christ and Dawn of the Dead shared a theater.
Yep. And the time that we had to get a new print of Finding Nemo when it got re-released because somebody thought it'd be great to put it together, not with regular tape, not with tape for the movies. No, they put it together with medical tape. And every single time it went through, and then it went through. Luckily, they caught it when we were previewing it. Needless to say, that person no longer works for the company anymore. Then again, no one around that I know works for the company anymore.
As I say, Nemo's 20 years old this year. I would hope not.
It was great. A great story that we had and we'll have like forevermore. Like these are the kind of stories we're going to tell on May 1st. Like the time that I laughed so hard I fell upside down in a chair and got stuck. Never forget that. The night I fell asleep, literally standing up in the back of a concession, and no one woke me up. These are things that we will talk about on May 1st.
Yeah, so keep that in mind, everybody.
We're going to have some fun, everyone. And we'll make our own fun otherwise.
Projectionist confessions style stuff.
Dear God, I got so many things I could talk about. So it's going to be amazing. How would Penn and Teller fare as football coaches? Teller's extremely meticulous. And I have a feeling he would know exactly what to do and exactly where to do it. Penn would just like to yell at people.
I was going to say it would be Teller would be the strategist and Penn would be the hype man.
Yep. He would be the one that's basically trying to like get you all fired up and ready to play. And Teller was like, "We'll do this. And Teller's like, Penn's like, "Go out there now," and everything. And they would win football games. And I would say that would bring an NFL team to Vegas, but apparently somehow, somewhere, according to a guest that came through their day wearing a shirt, the Raiders are now Vegas? I didn't know that. Don't know, don't care. Josie says basketball would be a great movie club pick. Yes, it would. Again, I want to talk about Real Big Fish all the time. Anyway, Talladega Nights and baseball talk about sponsors and sports. That's another thing I'm sure is a reason why verses happen. The Rundown could be on the movie club.
Yeah.
We've never talked about it on here before, so yeah.
Yeah.
Love to see Peter Berg return to comedies. I think that was what got his feet wet in film, and now he's kind of graduated, but it'd be interesting to see him go back and see what, as he knows what he knows now, to go back to see what he'd do with a comedy.
Well, Spencer Confidential was close because it was sort of a comedy action thing.
True.
But it's one of those things where I'd love to see him do another comedy, but his true story movies are phenomenal.
Oh God, yes. Oh my
Lord. With the exception of Spencer Confidential, his Mark Wahlberg trilogy is incredible.
I just don't want to hear How You Like Me Now anymore. That song is connected forever, Marky Mark.
Don't worry, that was 2010 to 2012. I think we're past it.
Cool. Speaking of interesting things, I wasn't aware of this. Josie talking about lacrosse, very big in LI where Josie's from. She goes, there are not any lacrosse movies I know of. I thought there was one like female all girls lacrosse team.
Yeah, I googled this. The one that I think you're thinking of is Spirit Game, Pride of a Nation.
I might be thinking of them playing lacrosse in like gym class during a very well-known movie, but I'm not sure. Did they play lacrosse in?
You're thinking of American Pie.
Yeah, it is American Pie.
Girls Rules.
Yeah, it's definitely American Pie.
Straight to video.
What if Billy Bob's character coached which dodgeball team? Talk about the Average Joes? Billy Bob instead of Rip Torn. Would Billy Bob also be in the wheelchair?
I don't know.
Billy Bob coaching Globo Gym? Him working with White Good? That'd be interesting.
Gaines is too modest.
Yeah. He'd have to be Average Joe's because Gaines is a baby face.
Yeah.
He's not a heel. Unless he got forced to work for Globo Gym because like White Goodman had some like stuff on him. That might be an interesting and intriguing story. What if Billy Bob switched places with one of the coaches I mentioned earlier? Talking about Rick Moranis again. How would Rick Moranis handle the Panthers? How would Pacino handle the Panthers?
I mean, considering like the way it sort of real and whatever, and how it's sort of about like workhorse style things, he'd probably
Mhm.
be a good replacement for whoever the head coach is in Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
I noticed Boone hasn't been brought up, and John Voight in Varsity Blues has not been brought up yet.
Varsity Blues hasn't been brought up on this channel yet, and that makes me sad. Because I want to talk James Vanderbeek on this channel.
We can do that.
I definitely want to talk James Vanderbeek on this channel at some point. Whether it's a versus, movie club, don't care. Just want to talk James Vanderbeek.
We've already said that Angus is definitely going to be a movie club pick at some point.
Yeah, it's too obvious to not be. I think that's the go home, everyone. I don't know how much you got of me tonight, so my apologies for the internet being for my internet instead this time being the wonky one. AJ's had his time. Ashley's had his time. I guess this was my time tonight.
I'm surprised we haven't even gone an hour and a half yet, because it feels like we talked about Friday Night Lights yesterday.
In my world right now, it does feel like we've done that. I guess we go final thoughts real quick. Does Chris have any final thoughts, or did he didn't Jerry Springer message again?
Yes. He says overall he thinks it's a great movie and he would love to read the book, which Spencer mentioned. Sure. And he said also that the show is a proper follow-up and is even shot similarly, but he thinks the movie performances are stronger than the show's performances.
Okay.
Which I can imagine.
If you want to roll on, since you already brought up Chris's opinion, what about yours?
Yeah, I just like the humanity in it and the way that it shows like a side of sports fandom that sports movies typically don't. True. And I love how that's almost like unexpectedly the focus. Like I kind of wonder how fans like that view this movie, or if they even see themselves in it at all. It's very interesting. So yeah, and I just love Peter Berg in general as a director. So
one little tidbit I'll throw out: when the book came out, guess who didn't like it? The fans of the team, because it was basically saying that the town was shit, and they were basically doing death threats against the author, who of course is Berg's cousin. So,
of course,
they didn't mend their ways.
Of course not. Why would they?
Clearly proven by that, the guy that was a lawyer and then came back and just turned into a frat boy again.
Which is it's such a shame because it seems like such a nice town otherwise. Like if you just by the look of it, but if you don't know the toxicity within.
Also, considering Odessa's actually got 100,000 people and it's not really a small town, another little sort of thing disguised in the film, Hollywoodized.
They disguised it very well.
Yeah.
And roll that into your thoughts, Ashley.
I enjoyed it. I feel there's stronger. I have to say American football because Then again, in terms of there hasn't been that many good soccer football films either.
Take a shot.
But yeah, I appreciate the fact that it felt, despite Hollywoodizing some of the bits that I would have liked to have seen be legitimately real. I still think sports documentaries are the best, really, because if you make up in a sports documentary, that's not a documentary. But it actually it's as real as you probably will get from something that's going to be Hollywoodized.
Okay. I would take the last word on this one since I didn't get to talk much. Yeah. Peter Berg's amazing. I love Peter Berg sports movies. This is something that I very much enjoyed, and is the second time this week that I have taken a subject that I know absolutely nothing about and don't give a damn about, and it got me to care. And for a split second, I was just another mark in that stadium with everybody else, watching everything happen in front of my eyes. The way it's shot's amazing. It's been brought up a billion times on the podcast tonight that it's very humanizing the way that it's done. It feels very realistic because the realism is there, because that type of Friday night atmosphere happens every single Friday at least one or thousands of high school games all across the country. People live and breathe high school football. And this movie shows exactly what lengths people will go to. It's fantastic. Great performances by a lot of actors that went on to do a lot better things. But this was the start of their greatness. And that's the great thing about that. And Billy Bob has just knocks it out of the park, just like he always does. And kudos to Peter Berg on our first of two Peter Berg appreciation nights here on the Popcast Network.
And if all of I mentioned this yesterday too, but if all this Peter Berg praise is going to get people to seek out his movies more, and I mentioned how good the Mark Wahlberg movies are, yeah, you can skip Mile 22, and I think Peter Berg would want you to skip Mile 22.
Yes,
and we forgive him for it because we know something wrong had to have happened because
you're allowed to make a misstep from time to time. It's okay.
It's okay. Also skip Battleship. They're probably the only two that I'd say are definitive skips.
But yeah, just go seek out his filmography and just start watching.
Including the stuff that he may have only acted in. Segment to 4 weeks' time.
We'll get there.
I know.
Yeah, well, Irish Terry Conklin coming to Popcast Network. That being said, thank you, live chat. Thank you, archive chat. Thank you, those that are in chat but not vocal. Thank you, anybody that's just watched. Yeah, we appreciate everybody. We really do. May 1st, not too far away. Thank God. Needless to say, the year's going by fast. So, anything that has ever been brought up on this channel is fair game to ask a true Q&A for this group. And we're even going to find out a little bit more about our chat. And speaking of that, our chat's even going to pick Movie Club that night. So that'll be a fun little game as well. Ashley can be found on Twitter at @AshIsMyNameUK. More content forthcoming.
Yeah, it turns out I now have a time limit on the one wrap because it's going until the 14th of February. And the only day when it's cheap is on a Wednesday, which of course logically means I have Wednesday to do it. Otherwise, I'm screwed. So
AJ, of course, cannot be killed by conventional weapons, and that's just basically that's what I'm going to say tonight. I'm going to just change the Keith Richards lineup a little bit. So yeah, needless to say, he has more content coming. We got 6 episodes coming for AJ content. You've got the English and Santa Clauses to finish both of those out. And if you're playing along at home, that's going to get us to the month of December. So we're trying to slowly but surely catch back up. I will have a ton of content up in the near future. Voices of Liberty content. I got Dickens Carolers stuff. That's going to last for a while. I've got a ton of sipping snacks you haven't even seen yet. Stuff that's not even on shelves anymore, just like normal. Needless to say, there's a lot of stuff still to come. And we've got our regular content, which leads us to the schedule.
yeah.
So tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about the guilds and the BAFTAs in a nice little discussion. If you want to join us at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you're more than welcome to. On February 12th, we're going to be predicting the BAFTAs. February 13th, we're going to predict the guilds. So that's SAG as well as PGA, WGA, and DGA. And then on February 19th, we have the BAFTAs themselves. We'll recap the show after it's over. So because of the time difference, we will not be super late on that show. That'll be a little bit earlier.
We're hoping to be, because it's being live broadcast on BritBox and in the UK online, let's just say these two are going to find alternative means to be able to actually view it, and rather than like just do what the Globes did last week and look at a Twitter feed. Not last week, last year, I should say. But time on that is to be determined, because I don't know when the broadcast is, but we'll find out by the time that we do the BAFTA predictions on Sunday. So that I'll try and confirm it then, so you know roughly when to tune in, and well, you'll get the Twitter notifications if you're following us on Twitter anyway. So
of course. And again, I apologize for the in case you missed it, and the video that are going to be coming up rather fast to get us locked into February. But sorry. Popcast Movie Club will return for episode 23, which is going to be Die Hard with a Vengeance. Ashley's pick. And then we've got the next day, nice little Q&A for everyone. We're going to be talking about the Screen Actors Guild Awards the day of the ceremony. You're looking at an Ashley and AJ show there. So, and then we're going to predict the Spirit Awards the next day, which is February 27th. And then, you know what? We'll toss you Q&A on the 28th to end the month properly. We're recapping the Spirits on the 4th, the night of the actual award show itself. And yes, the day we've all been waiting for, March 6th, we are predicting the Oscars.
Which I guess with that will also be a brief little mention to the WGAs, because
yes,
the WGAs fall at the same time as the AEW pay-per-view, so we will not be covering that.
Nope.
We'll try and touch... I think when we talk SAG, we'll also talk DGAs and PGAs with that, just to have like those guilds together, but because of WGA being wacky. And throwing everything out of kilter.
It'll also be The Great White Hype is going to be our next Peter Berg movie, which is my pick for Popcast Movie Club episode 24, which should be the 7th. And then, of course, the Oscars, March 12th, what we've all been waiting for. And then, you know what? After the Oscars are over, if you want to join us for a Q&A on Monday night, be our guest. Card subject to change.
Yeah.
I always say that just to be safe. Something may change. Times may change. I can definitely tell you that you're looking at the 6th to be a possibly later show. We're talking like 8:30, 9 o'clock, depending on the circumstances. But I might be able to solve that earlier. I won't know that until the end of February. So.
Also, just in case people have already tuned out of this, I think the aim will be that we'll mention this at the start of tomorrow before we do the BAFTA and the Guild nomination discussion, so everybody knows like right off the bat what the schedule is for the next month or so.
I wanted to end with the schedule so people that are still around could have it. And then tomorrow I want to start with the schedule so we could have that knocked out as well.
And the week after that, date to be confirmed, so in or around the 20th of March, will be AJ's pick of Crying Game as well.
Yeah, the Crying Game will be talked about on Popcast Movie Club episode 25. So lots of really cool movies we're going to be talking about for PMC for the remainder of the time. So yeah, lots to discuss, and we did it. So another episode in the books. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it's @SirOwenDisney. If you have any ideas for Sip and Snack versus the other regular segments on the network, feel free to shoot me an email, SirOwenDisney@gmail.com. So, stream Real Super Dark. Go get Intellectual Property when it comes out on April 14th. Go see Water Parks and Tour if you can get a chance to. Listen to them if you haven't to yet. Seriously. Go watch movies nominated for awards. Go watch movies that are not nominated for awards just to like cleanse the palate. It works. It really does. Best Picture movie marathons are coming to AMC and Cinemark, so get ready for that. So, I think tomorrow we might actually touch a little bit on this new AMC policy about the seating, the prime seating. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Okay.
Because I think it fits the situation. That being said, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. And until tomorrow, boys and girls, that's all we got to say about that.